Hello and welcome back, and in this video we're going to start working on our Fireworks view model. So let's go ahead and get started. There's one more import that we need, and let's go ahead and make sure these imports are in the correct order. So let's go ahead and put the next import, and this one is going to be observation. So we're going to be using observation framework for basically publishing the updates about our different kind of variables, basically about our fuse, like how much of the fuse has burned. So once again, let me pull this example here. So if I draw a path, fuse is basically the progress of that line where the light actually follows or the flame follows, right? So that is a fuse. So we need to actually know where the fuse progress is. We are also going to track when to show the explosion. So we can actually have a boolean. So for example, our explosion is not shown until we reach the very first point where the drawing started, and then you're gonna have basically an array of all the particles that are participating in this fireworks animation, and your path points, basically where we need to track or trace back and draw this custom path. We're going to be controlling all this using timers. So there are going to be two timers. First timer is basically when we are drawing, and the second timer is to control the explosion. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and set this aside. We're going to remove this, and let's start with add observable decoration. Okay, and we're going to create our fireworks view model. Okay, and it's going to have few properties. So first one is going to be a fuse progress. Let's see if it can take that. Okay, and we're going to make it as CG float, so it's easier for us to work with all the other core graphics variables. We're going to have show explosion, which is going to be initially set as false. We're going to have particles, which is going to be an array of particle with an empty array at the beginning. We're going to have path points, which is going to be an array of path points, initially empty. We're going to have is drawing. Basically, this is going to be a boolean to indicate whether the drawing is still going on or not. Okay, so if you notice, there are different states. So once again, when we are drawing, you can see that our line or our path is gray color, and so right now it is in drawing state, and as soon as we light up, it actually changes and it becomes sort of like a brown, and then it traces back with this yellow or orange color, eventually lighting up the fireworks. Okay, so that's what this drawing is going to be for. And like I said, we're going to have two timers, and both are going to be of any cancelable type, so we can cancel these timers. All right, now we have all the variables that we need, so we're going to start working on our some of our functions. Okay, so let's work on few helper functions here, and we're going to continue in the next video as well. Okay, so let's first add a point, but first to add a function to add point. Okay, so we're going to create a function add point, and it will expect a point type to be passed in, and we remember that point is our CG point that we are expecting. So we're going to expect CG point to be passed in, and if is drawing is true, then we're going to take our path point variable or collection and add that or append that path point that from the supplied CG point. Okay, and this is going to basically add a new point into our path point collection. All right, now we also want to know, or we want to have a function for detecting when the drawing is finished and when we can start basically lighting the fuse. Okay, so at this state, drawing is still not finished. Right now we are waiting for drawing to be finished, so user can continue to draw, right? And then they can actually click on this draw fuse, and we can actually light up the fireworks, right? So this function is gonna be basically tracked, like the finish of the drawing is using a function called finished drawing. And this will simply toggle the is drawing, and it's gonna call another function called start fuse. Okay, we are going to create this start fuse right now, but we're gonna populate this in a minute or so. Okay, so we're gonna first want to make sure that we have a reset state, so whenever user is ready to draw again, they can reset, and our entire canvas is basically reset and ready to be used. So for that, we are going to create a function, and this function is going to be called reset. And here we're going to make sure that all the variables are reset. So is drawing is true, path points is initialized with empty collection, fuse progress is set to 0, show explosion is set to false, particles is empty as well, and all the timers are cancelled. Okay, so this is our reset function, basically to reset our entire state. Okay, now let's go ahead and create our last function for this video, and this one is going to be start fuse. So what we're going to do is first we're going to make sure that we have some path points before we light up the fire, right? So we're going to create a guard statement, and we're going to say if not path point is empty, then return from here. If it is true, that means path point has something, then we're going to start our next set of work. So first of all, we're going to set the fuse progress to be 0, show explosion to be false, and then particles to be empty. Okay, and then we're gonna start our timer. So we're gonna say timer is timer.publish every 0.1 second on main thread in common run loop. We want to auto connect with this, and on the sync we want to actually receive the value. Okay, so we're gonna simplify this a little bit, and we're gonna say sync, and since timer is any cancelable, we don't need to provide store in. Okay, so here what we're gonna do is first we're gonna capture weak self so we don't end up creating a retain cycle, and then we're gonna basically put this self, so we can say if let self, otherwise return. Okay, and now if we can get the fuse progress, and if it is less than 1.0, in that case we're gonna say self.fuse progress plus, and we're gonna slowly progress it, so 0.004. okay, is the number that after a bunch of experiments I have landed with. And I would highly encourage you to try these out and see, like, which number actually works better for you. And here we're gonna basically when the fuse reaches at the 1, then we want to cancel our timer, and we also want to call another function to trigger the explosion. Okay, so let's go ahead and first of all create a function trigger explosion. Okay, and here what we're gonna do is we're gonna call this trigger explosion when the fuse reaches to the end. Okay, so now basically our start fuse function is all set and ready to go. Okay, so in the next video we're going to continue to work on this, and we're going to build up our trigger explosion. We also want to get the position where the explosion needs to be triggered or basically played, and then we're going to generate all the particles, and we're going to basically have a function to update the particles and their positions, and when they are no longer visible, logic to remove them from the scene so they don't consume the memory. Okay, all right, so all that coming up in the next video. Thank you.